Secretary Alan Levin of DITO, thanks so much for joining us on First Person.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Earlier this month, you announced your plans to leave your position as director of the Delaware Economic Development Office. Take us through your decision. Why are you leaving the Markell administration?
Well, first of all, it's been a great honor to serve for over the last 6.5 years with the governor. DITO obviously was at the forefront of a lot of things that went on over the last, since the governor came into office. We experienced the worst recession in the history of the world, not just the nation. I'm happy to say that we've weathered that storm. We've kind of turned the corner. We went from a high unemployment rate of 8.7 down to 4.6 where we are today. More Delawareans are working than ever before in the history of our state. So from my perspective, I was given an opportunity. A very good friend of mine, Matt Haley, who was the leader and founder of the Sodell restaurant group down in Sussex County, was unfortunately killed in a motorcycle accident last August. I was always very helpful. We kind of worked together. I was helping Matt. Sorry about that, Mark. I was helping Matt transition his business at that time, and have been working with his team since then, helping them more or less, helping them counsel them in some ways. This opportunity came up. It's a great opportunity, and it seemed like the right time. There's a year and a half left in the administration. I think I've done what I could do at this point. I think it's time for a fresh set of eyes to kind of look at things, and even though the fresh set of eyes is my deputy, right, who I've certainly worked with over the last 6.5 years and actually 30 years before that during my career at Happy Harry's. But I think Bernice will bring a whole lot to the table, which she already has. So I think, after a period of time, it's time to kind of move on. And this gives me an opportunity to help a friend, to help continue his legacy. And it also, although this didn't enter all into it, I get the chance to work with my son. My son is their director of human resources. So, and he did not hire me, by the way. So it is a unique opportunity.
And it kind of sets up Bernice Whaley, who was your deputy director.
Correct.
And gives her time still within the administration to really put her fingerprints on economic development in this state.
Yeah, you want to make sure. I mean, look, if there was only 6 months left, this was not the time to leave. There's a year and a half. There's a lot that Bernice can do. She needs the time to put, as you say, her fingerprints on the agency. And she will do that. And there is virtually no transition there because she's been there since day one. So she will hit the ground running. She's already doing that now. We copy each other on everything we're doing so that there won't be a learning curve that on June 30th, when I walk out that door on July 1st, it'll be like she's been there for years, which she has anyway.
Right. You mentioned the difficult economic mountain, really, that the state and the nation faced in 2009 and in the following years. Talk about what you think is the biggest accomplishment over the course of that difficulty. What is the best thing the state did economically in overcoming that? What was the high point?
Well, I think the high point, I mean, we can talk about individual companies, but we can also talk about the opportunities that I think we took this adversity and made better. And that was to train our workforce. We have got a more productive, a better trained workforce, one that is ready for not just the jobs of today, but the jobs for tomorrow. And that's a big deal. A lot of companies are not looking for the skills of yesterday. They want the skills that are going to help them grow, and these individuals now have the ability for careers, not just jobs. Obviously, biggest victories, I guess, would be the refinery. Putting the lights back on there was a huge accomplishment for the governor. And when you look at that, bringing back the banks, we're the only state in the union where banks are growing. And it's not just one bank, it's across the board. And it's because we have the right personnel in place, the right workforce for these banks to hire from. Insight was a huge win for us, keeping them here in Delaware. They've already exceeded their growth, what they told us they were going to do. They've already met and exceeded the growth in a year of where they were. Sev1, which is an outstanding software manufacturer that started at the University of Delaware, but has almost tripled in size since the governor came into office, and they're now building a new facility down at the University of Delaware Star Campus. Energizer, which is bringing their operations from Montreal and merging them into the Dover facility. These are all things that have been big pluses, and we needed a couple of good wins, and these were good wins for us. And then you look at the small business side, which I think is as critical as any. We irrigated 3,000 acres of land in Delaware through our DRIP program, which is a zero-interest loan to farmers, but they're getting higher yields, they're getting better use of the environmental tools and resources that they have. So that was a real positive for us, our state small business credit initiative. And in addition to that, our Delaware Capital Access program helped almost 175 companies not only survive the recession, but thrive and stay forward.
So that's kind of the peaks. Can't let you go without talking about some of the valleys, and
Sure.
Fisker obviously is probably at the top of that list. Their efforts to, or I guess the efforts to lure them to remake the GM plant on Boxwood Road in Newport. Why did that not happen? Was the state misled in what Fisker could do, or their standing? Give us your kind of take on that.
Well, I guess we can all look at it in different ways. I personally think the state lived up to every one of its obligations. I do not believe that the federal government did. I think politics played a big role. When Solyndra failed, the federal government pulled out of every one of these conservation programs, if you will. This was an energy conservation program. That hurt us. It hurt us a lot. Regardless of the $20 million that we spent on that, more importantly, the 2,400 jobs that we were hoping that would go into that facility. If things were different, I think they would have been successful. If given the opportunity to get off the ground, much like Tesla. Tesla had a great product. Fisker had a great product. And then it was beset by a lot of problems when everything fell apart. So when you think about it, yeah, that's probably our biggest defeat. But fortunately, we had a lot more wins than we did defeats.
As a businessman and someone who sees how government works kind of and can affect business, where do you stand on the idea of raising the minimum wage? That's been talked about in the General Assembly. From anywhere, really, does it need to be raised?
Well, I think there's two things to consider. Number one, we've already raised the minimum wage in Delaware, and the second phase will take place. I do not believe that this is the time to raise the minimum wage. I think we have seen over and above what we've already done. First of all, I think that when you consider where we are today, the economy is still fragile, not just here, but everywhere else. But you are seeing companies, because of economic pressures, the Walmarts of the world, the McDonald's, Target, they are all now raising their starting wages. And that's the way the system is supposed to work. When there is not a glut of employment there, companies have to react, and they do accordingly. Massaging or artificially stimulating the economy in that way doesn't usually work well, because it results in jobs being lost, people getting sour or tastes in their mouth about their employers, things like that. If we allow the economy to do what I think it does best, I think we'll be far better off. And we've seen it in Delaware. Delaware wages are up 9% over the last 10 years, and that's a good thing. So I hope that that continues. But doing it in an artificial manner, I'm not sure is the way to go.
So finally, as you leave the government sector, heading back to the private sector, what's the one thing you won't miss about working in state government?
Probably the drive to Dover 4 days a week is probably the most difficult thing. I get a lot of thoughts done. I do a lot of phone conversations to keep me awake at times, depending on what time of day I'm going. That's what I'll probably will not miss most. But I will miss, strange as it may seem, the people I worked with. We had a great team, and I guess the one rumor I want to dispel about state employees, they do work hard. And I'm not just talking about Dito, I'm talking about the state employees that I've come in contact across the board. They're hardworking, they do what they're asked to do, and they do deserve a lot more. It's just a shame that we're in a very tough budget crisis that we can't pay them more. But they are great employees, and the people of Delaware are happy, or should be very proud to have them there.